My name is Stuart Oakin. I'm the Director for European, Middle East and Africa for cybersecurity, and I'm going to let my colleague who's going to be doing the main session, Alex Pinto, take you through who Cypher is and all about the APTs and spear phishing. But before we do that, you might have noticed that I'm actually not American. And for some of the ladies that were coming to the stand, I don't have a cute Australian accent either. I'm actually English. I'm out of the European practice is out of the London office, so I'm actually British. Now, I think it's very important for me at this point to offer an apology. I really, on behalf of the entire British nation, I offer an apology to all the Americans out there. I'm so sorry we sent you Simon Cowell. You know, we often say in Britain that we have a special relationship with the Americans. I'm sure that's not what you had in mind either. We're just sending presenters over to you all the time. Okay. You like Top Gear, yeah? Yeah, those little small British cars, yeah? They're quite cute. Just a way of personal introduction. As I say, my name's Stuart Oakin. I've only just joined just joined Cypher. I was actually, if you've hang on a second, I know this guy. Didn't I yell at him at some point? Most of you in the room probably did yell at me at some point. I spent 8 years working for Microsoft as a chief security advisor during the time when we kind of were trying to understand whether security was just something you bolted on or whether we really ought to do something about security. So it was a really good time. I think I was yelled at by more clients and customers and any person in the rest of the planet. But it was really a good career. You know, we've seen a lot of increase in threats. I mean, just about every single day we're seeing threats. Did you see in the paper yesterday about the 19-year-old that is broken in or hacked in with LulzSec into the CIA? Now, what you might not appreciate is this 19-year-old comes from Essex. Now, Essex in Britain is, I'm not sure if there's an analogy in America, but let's put it this way, they kind of marry their own cousins and things like that. So I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to see if there's an analogy. I'm not going to upset a proportion of the population in the audience. But anyway, it's kind of interesting that if these people can do these types of things, okay, this is kind of a frightening environment. But we've seen an increased amount of threats at the moment. So my first question, most of you in this room are information security or risk or general security or governance professionals. Nearly every single one of you in this room is a professional in that area. So I'm going to ask you the obvious question. By show of hands, how many of you trust your IT? Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
That's a better number than last year, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, okay, he's the boss. All right, that's it. 3 people trust their IT. When I was at Microsoft, I was at a professional developers conference in San Diego. It was very nice. And I asked them a similar question, but in a slightly different way. Now, if anybody's been to a Microsoft professional developers conference, they're not as nicely dressed as you guys. Most of these people are long hairs, hippies, and walk around in flip-flops. I don't know if you have the same term, sandals. But very, very geeky, very, very technical, very, very bright individuals. So I kind of asked them the same question in a slightly different way. I said to them, there were about 50 people in the audience, and I said to these developer professionals, I said, if you were on an aeroplane at the edge of a runway, ready to take off, and you knew that your company was responsible for the flight control software on that aeroplane, how many of you would want to get off? 49 out of the 50 all shot their hands up. You know, yeah, I'm off. I want off. Get me off now. Yeah. Except for this guy in the front. And I looked down at him, and he was just laid back and really cool. I said, wow, okay, let me repeat the question. I repeated the question. And I said, you're not worried. You must work for Lockheed or Boeing or someone like that. He said, no, nothing like that. I'm not worried. If I was sitting on a plane at the edge of the runway and I knew my company was responsible for the flight control systems and software, I'm not worried because I know the plane wouldn't get off the ground. So, with that in mind, that's my sort of introductory bit over. I'm going to kind of interject maybe a little bit with Alex. I'd like to introduce Alex Pinto. Alex is our technical director. He's currently based out in Europe, but he's started his career in Brazil. He has more qualifications than I've ever come across anyone. It's got a slide there, they just go on forever. He also represented Brazil in a number of security forums as well, actually represented the country. He is an amazing guy, incredibly technical. We've told him to keep the session high but dip down occasionally, but he can take you way down into the details. He's a hardcore developer as well. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce you Alex Pinto. Thank you for your time so far.
Okay. Thanks a lot for introductions to it, and you'll be very impressed to know that in addition to being a very nice entertainer, he actually knows his stuff very well. So anyway, so let's get started then, and what we want to talk about today is a little bit about APT and spear phishing. Okay, there's still a little bit of confusion about all of this, what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing. Is there anything to do at all in order for us to protect against this? And hopefully we'll be able to come across a few examples, a few answers maybe about all of this. Anyway, Stuart gave you a brief introduction, all right? So my entire career has been devoted to information security, and well, I've pretty much done everything. I've been a software developer, so I can make software developer jokes while I'm talking about security. It's fine. I have been a system integrator, consultancy, program manager, and well, a lot of experience in all different sorts of companies, a lot of certifications, and I have been a PCR QSA since 2006. But please don't hold that against me, okay? Anyway, you can find me, you can contact me if you like. I mean, certainly we can get some sort of dialogue going around some of the ideas that I'm going to present around here. So, Cypher, pretty much a global information security. So I started with Cypher a long time ago in the South America environment. So we have a large presence in Europe as well. We're starting out here in the US. And anyway, there's a lot of information there about the country, about the company, and the kind of services that we provide. And the main idea really is trying to provide for security architecture and end-to-end solutions. This is a little bit what I'm going to talk about. We're going to talk about an issue, we're going to talk about a problem, and then we're going to start to see, okay, what are the options that I have to actually addressing that in a structured way to try to be at least a little bit more comfortable that I'm handling my risks correctly. So, first of all, I'd like to start with the key messages. This is what I'm going to be talking about in this presentation. So if either one of you falls asleep, gets bored, go away, at least you know this is what I tried to do, although I might have failed miserably. The main idea here is to let you guys know that, and probably you have been hearing this the whole conference, I wouldn't be surprised anyway, that the threats are evolving. Okay, things are changing, the focus on the objectives of the attackers are changing, and in some way this is our fault, because we have been doing our job properly in the other areas. So, I mean, they have to find a way in. So they have to keep shifting their focus, they have to keep shifting their objectives in order to get ultimately what they want. Okay? We are a little bit behind of the arms race. So we are actually on a turning point now, where we're starting to understand what these new threats look like, and, but still there's a little bit of awareness that we need around it. And, well, a structured approach should be the step in the right direction. So there is no silver bullet. You won't be able to buy an ultra-secure toaster that's going to protect you about APTs. It doesn't work like that. You have to really think about and try to put this into your risk and your security, organization security perspective for anything that you do. Just about that, but any other project as well. Anyway, so, I mean, let's start a little bit of the setting, really. And when we think about all those break-ins and stories that we used to hear, in the late 90s, early 2000s, there were a lot of network-based break-ins. So that's when the internet started. That's when people started to integrate their networks together. And, I mean, just as a curiosity, in most of the network forensics jobs I have worked to, obviously, almost 2/3 of the incidents that had network break-ins involved were from a third party. They were not even from the internet. So anyway, we caught up to this. And we started to develop a standard security response, a structured security response for that. So we have our IPSs, we have our AVs, we have OS hardening, network security, a little bit of monitoring, and I guess it's pretty much sorted. Of course, different organizations are in different level of maturity, but we have put a lot of effort in understanding this problem and making sure it was okay. So when we move along, as this thing starts to get more difficult to break into the network, the challenges have shifted to the application. So of course this has been fueled by e-commerce, this has been fueled by Web 2.0, and now we still have a lot of application break-ins. I wouldn't say that the bell curve is stabilized yet, but we are catching up to it. We have catch up to it quite a few years ago, and now we have secure development processes, we have web application firewalls, we have database firewall and monitoring. I mean, there is a structured response. If we have a specific challenge where we have to secure an application, at least we know where to start to look. So, I guess that's fine. I appreciate a lot of companies still have a long way to go around this, but at least we have a general idea. But then, when we look now, at least last year when we started talking about APTs and things like that, and this is being even more brought to light because of bring your own devices, consumerization, everybody's concerned, okay, so people will start bringing their own, how to make sure that is even remotely secure according to our company policy. Mobile devices are everywhere, and people are drawing blanks. How do I start? I mean, is there an approach? How do I solve this problem? So, well, I guess we do have a problem there that we have to investigate a little bit more. So, thinking about this, we thought about doing a survey in Europe to about 300 companies, some of them customers, some of them prospects, leads, anything. Anyway, connecting with people pretty much like yourselves and trying to understand, okay, how do they stand? How do they understand this? I mean, you have been reading the news. How are you protecting yourself against those new threats that are coming up? And about 87% of those people said, I'm protected because I have blank from vendor blank. And what really concerned me is that the blanks were not even the same. Well, as you talk to different people, they said, oh, I have a next generation toaster from UltraSafe. I have a super IPS from whatever. And they all say I'm protected, of course. I've read the marketing material. And I mean, those products, they are very good. I have nothing against any of them. But this is not what's protecting you. This is not what should be protecting you. If you're putting your beliefs in blank from vendor blank, well, it could do a lot of good things, but it might not as well be enough if you're not looking at this at a structured perspective. And this is the kind of a message that I'm trying to bring here. So, and it's important to understand that this has happened before and this will happen again. Okay? So all of us have one moment in our career said that we don't need anything else because we have a firewall and an AV. We've all said that our IDSs would be able to handle the application security. We all said that our development teams were great. You know, so there's always this self-fulfilling prophecy. There's always this eternal struggle. Depending on what you have been doing in your free time for the last 7 or 8 years, you understand this concept either from Nietzsche or from Battlestar Galactica. So the thing is, we don't have to be ashamed of this. This is a moment where we are starting to learn a new process and learn a new security stance, okay? We were like that in the 80s. We don't have to be ashamed of that. We have moved on, okay? Well, most of us have moved on. But anyway, what can you do? So let's try to talk a little bit about the problem then. So let's try to make sure that everybody here is on the same page. So what I'm talking about when I speak about spear phishing, when I speak about APT. So our classical phishing, I mean pretty much when they had New Coke and Classic Coke anyway, you have the bad guy who will claim to be George from your bank or something like that. He'll send millions and millions of emails to pretty much everyone, saying something very ludicrous like, we lost all your passwords, there's a pigeon in your bank account. I mean, anything really to get you to click on a link. We'll send you from bank@malware.com. Come on, who are these guys trying to fool, right? But they did fool a lot of people at the start, you know. I mean, nowadays, I would say from millions, we have tens of conversions, okay? And we're still getting a lot of Trojans, keyloggers, and botnets, but I mean, this is a fact of life. This is, this is almost like background radiation from the universe. We have learned to live with this, okay? In summary, we see some very high volume, we see very low efficiency. It's mostly stock malware, so things that your AV should be able to pick up with unless you're using a very bad one, but anyway, I'm not talking about that on this session. And the good thing is, at least us here in this room, we're pretty much onto them. We're not going to be fooled by something like that. Well, the guy's just pretty much having a bunch of hooks, 1 million hooks there, and whomever bites it, it's fine. So the spear phishing. So this guy did a little bit more research. So he's actually Jason from help desk. Okay, so he knows there's an actual help desk. He knows there's a Jason there. That's a very good start. And he's going to send about tens of emails, maybe less even, to Bob, Sue, and Phil from accounting. Okay? He will know that they work there. He will know that Sue, the HR director, has asked them, a few people around the company, to review a new payroll system. And he's going to tell a very sad story that he's behind schedule and that he really needs their help in order to make sure that it's tested as soon as possible. And he'll even have a proper email, you know. How many people from accounting will know that bank-helpdesk.com is not the actual email address from the help desk, right? And people will, I mean, Jay Miller, the guy must be a saint. It's a great name. It's not an evil guy from somewhere. And the fact is, maybe some of them will not do that. Maybe because they don't have time. But they'll just leave it to handle with it on the weekend. But there will be a lot of conversions, okay? And when we're talking about a targeted attack here, if the guy took the time to do all this research, he wants to make sure that when he gets in, he really gets in. And that's when we start talking about this mythical APT thing. So it's about... of course, I'm going to enter in much more detail, but the main point here is that we're trying to get a foothold inside the company to be able to gather as much information as possible, but based on this, on the end user access point of view. So the summary here is that we have a targeted attack to a specific organization. The efficiency is very scary, okay? I don't know how many of you have actually been exposed to a spear phishing email, and it is scary. If you didn't know better, if the guy didn't tell, okay, this is bad, you might as well, okay, but this sounds mostly right. It is very scary. They are custom made, and the idea is to deliver this custom malware covered, I mean, everything bad you can put in it, to the organization. So we had a lot of examples recently. So there are a few stories about tracking companies who had their information after a hack that they had got the information. They would send email to the customers like, oh, we lost your package is on your way. Could you please confirm your package tracking number this, Mr. this, and please enter your details here for me. Why wouldn't you trust that? The guy knows everything about you. That's the really scary part. Epsilon follow-ups, we have been seeing a few of those. So there was this breach there where a lot of email marketing information has been stolen. There has been a few follow-ups from that where information has been gathered. HB Gary was pretty much a story like this one. So I don't know if you guys were familiar. This is all public information, by the way. The guy sent an email, the attacker sent an email saying, I am the CIO, I need to access the email folder as an administrator. And the IT guy wouldn't know better. Well, the CEO of the company is telling me to do it, I'll do it. RSA and Sony, they also have released some public information where the initial point of entry on their hacks was something that was related to spear phishing that deployed a piece of malware like this. So anyway, what is this? What are we talking about? Another acronym in our lives. Oh my God, I mean, we can't even keep track of them. So it stands for Advanced Persistent Threats. And I do have a few opinions about this. So I'm not too sure about the advanced part. Okay, I'll certainly use refined, I'll certainly use polished, But all the techniques that are being used there have been in place for many, many, many years. It has been a very common technique for red team penetration testing to actually build this custom-made malwares and custom-made delivery mechanisms in order to gain information about the company you were testing. So I can certainly say to you that the concept is at least 10 years old, because 10 years ago I was a part of a team that developed something like this. So, I mean, there are many people much brighter than me and probably came up with this idea many, many years ago and have refined it much, much more than, I mean, I could ever imagine or dream. It is persistent, that we can say, because it's specifically targeted. I'd say it's persistent in two ways. First of all, that, okay, this is the guy that I want, I'm going for it. And then the other thing is that it can actually sit there for months. And by this time, it can be remotely directed by the attackers. Okay, there is a communication channel, usually covered, uses SSL. You probably wouldn't be able to pick it up unless you're really, really looking. And it's all about sitting there, getting to one user at most, at least, of course, and performing lateral movement on the organization, getting more privileges, going up, going down, making sure you can get all the data that you actually need or want, and then start to exfiltrate this data and take this data out. So I would also say this is definitely a threat. So if you look to a few of the numbers, a few of the damage that has been brought, of course, not all of this is financial, but even in Google for Aurora, allegedly there was a lot of source code that was taken as well. We don't know the extent. So I'm not saying anything bad about those companies. Please bear with me that everyone is very susceptible to anything like this. I mean, it was just their time, and it will still happen more and more and more as we carry on, as we're still trying to wrap our minds around this and trying to put together a specific response. So why is this so effective? Why is this specific scenario, why haven't we prepared for this yet? I mean, why are we getting so much press about this? Why are we getting so much success? So what I think is that there's pretty much a three-pronged approach here. There's always the human element. Sorry, we have to talk about the human element in a security presentation. You thought you would get away from that, but it's very tailor-made. It's potentially zero-day. And it's also a product of our environment. It's a product of the information security community, as we have always been driven on a risk-based approach. I'm not saying that is bad. I'll get to that. But the reason why this is happening now is because we have been doing our job properly on the other things. Anyway, the human element. I guess you guys, of course, know this. But we are wired to trust each other. This is why we're here. Well, not exactly on this room, but civilization and all those things like that. We work together. We like to work together. We were wired to do this. So if someone is polite, someone tries to be selfless or tries to improve the group in any way, certainly someone from your company that's sending you an information, help me out, this will improve the company, you will feel compelled to help him. You have to have a lot of training, a lot of thought about what you're doing to not just automatically click on whatever's going on. And it's not even for, I mean, nobody's 100% aware all the time. So there was this recent story, I don't know if you guys remember it, but there was a LinkedIn fake profile. They put on a picture of a beautiful woman. She was supposed to have security clearance on the government, and she linked to a whole lot of very important people. They didn't actually bother to check if she was someone that really exists or someone that, I mean, could be on this clicks, so to speak. But, I mean, anyone is susceptible to that. Well, even Skynet agrees. The problem is, being being tailor-made and being zero-day oriented means that traditional vulnerability management is not enough. You maybe do all your patching correctly, but still you would be susceptible to something that has either not been discovered, has not published, or hasn't been patched yet. Traditional signature-based systems, they also struggle a bit because, I mean, if it's something tailor-made, there won't be any signature to match it. So yeah, now we are pretty much fighting an uphill battle. So when we're talking about behavior and anomaly-oriented blocking, that is certainly a step forward because the only way you're going to be able to pick on something like this, if you have some sort of behavioral analysis, if this is good or if this is bad, but the false positive is a nightmare. You will get all sorts of false positives everywhere. Trying to do proactive blocking with that, it's not for the faint of heart, I can tell you. But on the good side, CM and log management could help as well, but then again, you have to be very mature down this road. It's supposed to be covered. It's supposed to be very silent. So you have to be specifically looking for a few things in order to be able to actually pick up something from there. And finally, the way we are responsible in a way is because we have been telling our CTOs, our CIOs, that we should be spending money on what's more likely to be attacked. So we shouldn't focus on endpoint security as much as we focus on the high-value systems, on the high-value information. And this is something that we have been doing right. If we haven't been doing this in the way that we have been doing so far, we wouldn't get those green ticks at the start of my presentation. But now, what we have to understand, we're dealing with something significantly different, something that we have. Again, we have to think about adding different layers, different approach to our security, in a different stance, really, in order to handle this specific threats. This is now our weak link, well, until the next one comes along, because, I mean, it's never going to end anyway, is it? The point is, have we failed so badly? I mean, is it so hopeless? I mean, everyone, we're struggling, we're here saying about, well, does this, does that, we can't pick it up. How are we going to tackle this problem? Well, we need to try to structure it a little bit. We need to try to find a way to put some order here, to find a way to create a sort of an overview strategy. Of course, it will depend on the company. I have some ideas I want to throw around here so that you guys can think about it. We can have a discussion on the questions as well, as much as people let us stay here, I guess. We still have the draw anyway. But the first thing, and it didn't work now. Okay. So the first piece, of course, is deterrence. We want to make sure that we are able to stop those things getting in or the information getting out for as long as we can. So everybody in this room has probably heard, at least today, 15 to 20 times that there's no 100% security. Well, guys, there's no 100% security. We're only delaying this. We're only delaying the inevitable for as long as we can detect it. So we have to have, there is a proper way to put controls in place that will help stop or at least to slow this leakage of information or even the APTs getting in until we're able to detect and properly respond to it. And of course, all of that has to be tied in with information, not only for ourselves, but for the people that work with us, for pretty much everyone in the organization. So let's try to drill down a little bit, okay? So I hope this doesn't get too technical. I'll try to give some examples if possible. But this is pretty much my view, as it is today, on how we could start structuring a response for these kind of threats. So first of all, let's talk about the information, okay? So as a few of you might know, I mean, if you were a child in the 80s, knowing is half the battle, okay? And understanding the attack vectors and how you're going to shape your defense strategy is the most important thing. That ties in back to what we were speaking about, that vendor blank and product blank. So it has to make sense to what you're trying to protect. So it also ties in, this pretty much creates the whole superstructure of your strategy on how you are going to deploy or not all the other different actions, all the other different projects or sorry, I just missed the word, all the other different stances that you can have to help with this. So one thing that is my personal opinion, and this is something that I have been discussing with other security professionals, is that it's not like those APT are happening more, we're just becoming more aware of them. We're becoming increasingly better in picking them up, and they have been happening for a long time potentially. And to be fair, I'm still surprised we don't get any information about mobile APTs. So things that are actually running on our mobile phones, which also have such a great deal of information. I mean, even before Apple releases a new version, even before Android releases a new version of the OS, it's already jailbroken, it's already rooted. I mean, you just have to navigate to a website. Why aren't these things why aren't we hearing about these things? They could be there, and we don't know about them. But this is just a little play that I want to have with you guys. We just have to try to change the way that we think about this. Just try to become increasingly more aware that these things could be happening. They just could be blind spots in our current infrastructure. Okay. And of course, we do have to teach the users. There's definitely no way around it. As challenging as it might be, this is a very, very important piece of the puzzle, okay? We can't treat them like children anymore, you know? This is for certain. We have to try any sort of security awareness. And I use some, I like the word awareness because it reminds me of all those marketing things about first you have awareness, then you have this, then you have that. So we should be going for interest. They should be interested in information security. They should be looking for adopt it as a part of their lifestyle. There should be something that they can relate to. This is something that I try to bring when I'm working on a sort of a security awareness program, but you have to make it personal. You have to make it, okay, lock your door. This is the same thing as locking your door. I mean, they have to care. If they don't care, if they don't see anything practical for their lives, they're not going to move on. And of course, you have to mention this kind of stuff. You have to mention that this is happening. I've had a very interesting experience with a class when I was telling them, these guys are trying to steal your data. You know, they're evil. And there was a very strong response. They could really relate to, wait, they're trying to fool me. You know, sometimes we have really to bring them into the game and to try to make sure that they care. It's not just about the company. It's about them as well. It's about, what they should be doing. Another important thing is internal communication etiquette. And this is a very interesting. So, I bet that most of you will have hundreds of letters really from your bank saying, we will not send you email requesting your personal information, blah, blah, blah. So we already know that. They have already taught us that. And we know that we can't expect our bank or any other provider really to ask us for this information by phone. They're always educating us. But are we educating our users that, okay, nobody should send you an email asking for your password inside the organization. Nobody should ask you to run something unless it has been pre-approved by your manager or it's sitting on a specific share. It's about communication, really. It's about setting up the ground rules. And it also helps defeat any sort of social engineering that would be around those spear phishing attacks. Of course, I'm not even mentioning here your run-of-the-mill anti-spam and sender keys and SPFs. I assume everything is already in place. Okay, this is just some new ideas. Of course, everything I say here should be building up and above of what is normal practice, is current practice. But still, when we have all of that in place, some of the things will get through, and we still have to educate our customers in order to make sure it happens. Anyway, moving on. So, endpoint whitelisting is a technology that is very, very interesting when you're talking about deterrence, because it will not let anything run that you haven't told it to. So I have seen many, not even security people, but IT managers thanking me, oh, now I don't have to worry about portable applications anymore. So I don't have to worry that people are bringing on their portable browsers, because I support this and this browser in my organization. Some people don't like that. And I make sure that they're patched. But then people bring on their own browsers, their own portable versions. I can't really do anything. I mean, they do have to use the machine. They have to have user permissions at least. And they would be able to run portable-based software. So, I mean, only for that, as an avenue to new vulnerabilities, this is interesting on its own. The good news is that this technology has actually gone a long way when we're talking about dynamic whitelisting now. So this is a new buzzword as well. So you don't actually have to tell them, so this executable with this hash, it actually can learn by itself. As you run, you try, okay, just run it, take a snapshot, this is it. If I'm going to change something, I'll let you know, but otherwise, just make sure that this is what can run into it. The challenge is, those technologies are still much, much more easier to work when you're talking about single-purpose devices. So ATMs, point of sales, because when you try to do it everywhere, and you have to cater to every single need of every single department, that's when the cracks of the policy in general, the help desk policy in general, they start to show a little bit of some cracks. It could be very messy if you don't do a proper job of before trying to work on a whitelisting project. You actually do some inventory management and making sure that the help desk people are up to date on what should be running on those machines, that all the versions are known and everything like that, because otherwise it could be very messy and even not be a success. One thing we have to be careful here, and this is something I'm going to touch also on DLP, these technologies they are not easy to roll out. Neither, no matter what the vendors tell you, okay? Whitelisting is not easy to roll out properly on a large environment. DLP is not easy to roll out. I mean, at least DLP we have learned that already. But we have to be careful not to burn our cards, because this is actually a very interesting technology in the deterrence space, because it wouldn't let anything else run. Doesn't matter whatever tailor-made thing has been presented to us by this malicious link, it wouldn't let it run. Then again, we might still need a little bit of legwork on the IT in order to be able to work with this. So VDI I think it's a very exciting technology as well, but I would approach it completely the opposite way. I was so, when I first heard about it, I thought, oh my God, we have all the problems sorted now, because we don't have to worry about people messing up the desktops and changing configurations. No, but the actual selling point is that they can keep the desktop and they can use it anywhere that they go. I wouldn't do that. I would make sure that every time they shut it down, the whole desktop is torn down, and when they log in again, it's a brand new desktop with your master image. And all the data, of course, it sits on network shares. Everything is very neat and tidy. They can only use specific applications. I mean, even if something does come across and infects the machine because it's not I wouldn't say it's not properly secure. Even if we do all the due diligence with those machines, they could potentially be infected by a zero-day tailor-made, etc. That's the whole point of what I'm trying to say. But we would reduce the impact to that specific session, because as soon as the machine was torn down, there you go. The guy would have to go to the email again and click on it again. Come on, how bad can it get, right? But it's actually a very interesting deterrent. You create, and this has actually been a very interesting option for people that have compliance issues. I'm talking specifically about PCI here, although I promised I wouldn't. Where people, they have the cardholder data environment, and they have employees that do need to manage the card data. I mean, generally fraud people, I mean, you can't take them off. They have a very important purpose in there. But then they would go into the secure environment where they would be created a specific desktop for them. They would do all the work that they need, and then it would be instantly destroyed as they logged out. So this is a very interesting, especially specifically when you're handling with very sensitive information. This could be a way to thwart this as well. So role engineering, this is normal, this is basic, but it's especially important here as a deterrence, because if you make sure that the need-to-knows are people actually only know what they need, and there's a proper separation of duties, the little bots that are there, they will have to shop around a little bit more. They will have to do more lateral navigation. They will have to get more user access in order to be able to reach whatever level of permission that they want to get to. So, I mean, it stops them a little bit. You should be doing this anyway, of course, and this is not new at all. But this also helps. It's also a good way to bring this forward, and it also ties in very nicely with the OP, which we all have been trying to do for so many years, and we always fail. It's very interesting because DOP now is actually a very mature technology. The way that it is very good at picking up stuff. What people haven't been very good at is telling it what stuff to pick on. And of course, I mean, it can only do what it tells you to tell it to do, right? Unfortunately, they haven't, well, hopefully they haven't grown minds of their own. But if you're able to enumerate what are the sensitive documents that you would like to keep secure, specifically against an attack like this, you could potentially feed a DLP-based solution, either host-based, either network-based, and it could help. If everything else fails, it could really help pick up any sort of that data exfiltration. Then again, I won't lie to you guys, deployment is very tricky. It's very hard to do properly. Of course, if you just buy a tin and put it in there, you can do some basic stuff, but you can really get the value out of it if you do an information classification policy and you really start to dig, okay, what should I be protecting anyway? Okay, so now we move in to detection. So there's this great thing going on now that people aren't really sure what to call. I've heard some people that do exactly the same thing, call it network forensics. Some of them call zero-day detection. It's so new they don't even have a name yet, even an acronym. I'm surprised. I would expect an acronym by now, that we could call it by. But anyway, this is very interesting because this is actually an extrapolation of something that we have been doing for a while now, and we sometimes don't really realize it. So when we use our AV, although we have our the online scanner, everything we access, it will try to see if it's infected or not. Even so, we ask it to run every single Friday or Friday during lunch. Oh, that's a very popular one. People usually don't even come back from lunch after they see the AV start running. But it will run because, I mean, maybe we missed something. Maybe for the last week, I haven't really touched a specific file, and now it has been found to be bad, and so I make sure to run a complete scan on the whole thing to see if I didn't miss anything. So some interesting tools, their idea is to capture all the network traffic that's going through, anything that's executable, anything that could potentially run JavaScript, well, you name it, and just save it there, And periodically, as threats get known, as things happen, they would check against, oh, look at this. This happened last Tuesday. This is actually interesting. This is actually something that this, and this person access, and now we have all sorts of problems with it, some anomalies in the network. So you can actually start to do forensics around what has gone through your network to actually try to pinpoint where did it come from, what sort of threat it is. And this is, for me, this is very interesting. This is very exciting. However, what I find even more interesting, there are some other tools that will do that, and they will do the testing as well for you. It will not be real time, of course, because it will do all sorts of testing, but it will actually instance like, I don't know, 20 virtual machines from all different flavors of Windows and different service patches, and just run that piece of code. Let's see what it does. And then, remember back there when I told you about the behavior analysis, how it was very difficult to block. it's actually a very interesting tool for you to detect, even if you're being reactive. We're talking about, I mean, it's detection. We're talking about being reactive here. We're trying to pick it up after it happened, but at least we have some sort of guarantee that things will stay relatively stable for a while we pick this up. So they would do all sorts of behavioral and heuristical tests on this. Who is it talking to? Is it trying to reach out? Is it trying to... And okay, this could be suspicious. This has been downloaded by X, Y, and Z. You should probably look at the machines. You'll probably get this alert like 1 or 2 days after actually it went through. But then you have a specific target. You don't have to worry so much. And in my mind, okay, so this is very early days, okay, for this technology. But in my mind, what we're comparing here is some sort of log management tool. When we think about the first one, so this is our large syslog server where we have everything that we need, so we can search on it, you know. You remember those days, oh God, am I talking about PCI again? Remember those days when people thought that daily log management on PCI actually meant that someone had to read through the logs? So this is the feeling that I get. We have either log management or we have event correlation, something that can actually add some sort of knowledge, some sort of intelligence to the fray. Anyway, those two technologies are very interesting. I would look after vendors to try to understand how it could potentially fit in your environment. Anyway, I touched upon CM as well. You can use the CM infrastructure to help you. Again, it needs a little bit of maturity. You need to be a little bit down the road. You must have deployed it. You must have played a little bit of it. You must have taken out all those terrible Windows alerts that come by dozens that actually don't mean anything. I mean, just to start. But you can start doing some fun stuff with it. I mean, with event correlation, I mean, your mind is pretty much the limit. So one thing that we suggested to our customers, as the news from RSA break out, nobody knew what was going on. Nobody had any certainty of anything. Okay, let's immediately reduce the threshold on any login attempts from RSA secure IDs. Not going to do anything. I just want to be alerted if someone gets it wrong twice instead of 5 or 10 times. Because, okay, our threat profile now has increased. So this is an interesting way. You're just listening to what's happening to the market and you're trying to respond. So outbound communication to low reputation hosts, okay, or unusual countries. I say unusual in the sense countries that your organization does not normally have business relationship with. So those are certainly eye-openers when you're trying to sift through all this information that's going through. Okay? So, I mean, even login access. Why is a user logging in a protected storage out of hours? So it's those kind of little ideas, those kinds of little tinkerings that you can do that go a little bit beyond what you would think of network log management, getting the logs from the firewall, getting the logs from the server, but trying to tie in a little bit with what your business is about and what is important for you to protect. So if you start to put a little bit of those, I was going to say a vendor name, but you put a little bit some traps out and just see who walks through them. Because, I mean, if someone is accessing that information with that frequency, it might be nothing, but it certainly would be worth investigating. Of course, having threat intelligence knowledge is very, very important as well. So you should either subscribe to some sort of, I mean, it could be part of an organization that provides that for you. You could have a vendor do that for you. You could run it as a managed security service. But having someone who actually does this on a day-to-day basis and can actually bring this, okay, this has been happening with the customers over there. So let's just put it in for you here because who knows, it might happen with you. Nobody should be an island when we're talking about these things. Those threats are now global. This is happening to everyone, everywhere. And finally, and I know this is also a very buzzwordy, the situational awareness thing. For me, the situational awareness is when you actually are able to evolve your CM landscape so that you can actually represent all this information I was telling you in some sort of dashboard, some sort of graphic that I mean, anyone could potentially follow, anyone could potentially pinpoint that, okay, something weird is happening here. We still don't, it's just a red light, okay? Let's get someone to look at that. There would be all the technical detail inside the tool, inside all the different tools that we would have deployed. But then we have, the earliest we can detect this, the more information sources we can gather, the more ideas we can have. And of course, this is all very tailored. There's no easy way out of this, unfortunately. You have to make sure that you're protecting what your company needs to protect. Make sure you put the monitoring station, so to speak, where this needs to be protected. And this also works very well, something that we have done very well with companies that, of course, have a compliance requirement, but, I mean, like anyone would, should, could, like to approach this on a risk-based stance. So they would have all the requirements there on the dashboard, and they would know, at any moment in time, they would know if something is okay or not okay. Anyway, in a nutshell, let's see how I did, pretty much. So what I was trying to say here is that threats are evolving, okay? So the bottom line is that we have to continuously evolve with them. So doesn't mean you have to throw away everything we did. Far by that. We will just invite those other people back. But we have to continue. We have to see this is different. Okay? Doesn't mean that the new technologies that are coming out are not going to help us with it. They are going to help us with it. But there's no silver bullet. You have to be very careful with that. Okay? Very, very careful. And of course, this is security in depth. You all guys all know about it. We have to understand what we're dealing with. And to understand what we're dealing with, we have to understand what would the attacker want from us. We have to understand our organization in order to be able to efficiently protect against it. And like I said before, you have to build upon your controls. You have to build upon your infrastructure. You have to find what's most sensible for you. I gave a few tips here. There's by no means a complete list. No, there's a whole lots of different things. There are even more ahead on the horizon, but they aren't really stable is the word I would use, but they're very promising as ways that could potentially help. There's a lot of talk about, okay, let's just get rid of everything, just do it through the web. I mean, this could potentially help this as well, but we have to see. This is not where we are now, but this could potentially be an answer. So, anyway, any questions, guys? Any way I can. I know it's a lot of information. I'm sorry about that.
Can you guys read that? Dilbert's my hero, by the way. I look at these guys. Can you see a similarity between Alex and Dilbert? Okay, guys, we're going to take 2 questions and then we're going to do the draw. So, questions. Don't be shy, and then we'll do the draw for the iPad. If there's no questions, I'm taking the iPad home. There you go. There's a gentleman over here.
Okay, so you mean about...
Repeat the question.
Yes, so you're asking... Yes. Okay. Yes, certainly. So what the gentleman said is, first of all, about my comment about deploying whitelists being potentially complicated, and also about whitelists as being a part of a greater suite of tools and other additional tools that would help run the detection of it. So I'll tackle the second part first. So it's very usual for whitelisting to be deployed together with change controls and change management tools, especially when you're talking about the server-based environment. So when we're talking about a server-based environment where you actually want to have changes and you want to control those changes, it's relatively common for you to have a way to, okay, this server is locked down, but there will be a change control cycle along the way, and I'll let this change happen, this will all be recorded, and then I can compare what happened with this change with the change control procedure. You can do some sort of reconciliation of this, okay? I didn't mention that specifically on this because as we're talking about endpoints, we're talking about desktops, my opinion is that we shouldn't really be worrying about updating and doing change control or things like that on the desktops. You just bring them in, you tear them down. There should be a master image. Of course, the master image would be updated from time to time. And of course, it would be interesting for you to have all the security controls on that. But I don't think that's really what would be the best for this kind of situation. Okay? About the other one is the issues that I've been having, the issues that I have seen is whitelisting is very final. So it doesn't matter if you are an administrator and on your machine, as many executives and many, well, anyway, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Why can't I be an administrator on my own machine? And sometimes we let people get away with that pretty much because we like our jobs. But whitelisting is very final in the sense that even if they are an administrator, they wouldn't be able to make any changes that they would want to. So I have seen a lot of, can I say, grief? No, I guess it's too strong. But a lot of, especially when you're talking about the VIP audience about this, when you have to handle this, you have to have a very strong desktop support team that will be able to cater to their needs if they need something specific. I'm not saying it always goes bad. That's not the point I was trying to go across. But any major change that you have on your whole desktop infrastructure, of course, you have to make sure that the people who do the service desk, the people who do the help desk in general, they are very onto it and they're able to respond to every single or any necessity that users, specifically the VIP users, would have in this environment. I mean, it's like a dam, right? You have all the water there, so it's a very calm lake, okay? So you start draining the dam and you start seeing rocks, you start seeing, so the rock is bigger, and as you go down the water level, you see all sorts of rubbish at the end of the dam, at the end of the lake. So as you start creating more, you start taking away those liberties in a way. You start making it more locked down. You're starting to see the cracks on your policies, and this is something that would ideally be worked on before we start a whitelisting project. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, that was a long answer, so I'm not going to take another question.
I'm so sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Brazilians know everything about dams. All right, we're going
Let me
to
just interject here for a moment. You know what the thing that made Stuart most mad during this whole conference is that people would speak to me and they say, "Ooh, another British," and I've only lived there for a year. He can't get over that.
No,
you know?
no, I couldn't. And they also said you were better looking than me. I couldn't take that either. But, okay, we're gonna do the draw. So Tess, would you like to come over? This is the draw for the 2 iPads, one each, so you don't get both. Sorry about that. Okay, we need someone to help who's going to be. I know you probably all got something, but we need someone that's independent that's going to help us. Felipe, come down here. You're independent. Felipe's our CEO. He's in charge. He's the boss. We're not worthy. Come on, come on. There you go. You should be independent. There you go. I got to just say something about Felipe. I mean, and about I've been saying this to a few people that are coming to the stand. We've just opened up our American office, and so we have a Brazilian office and we have our office in Europe. And And I think it's really good that the Brazilians are coming back up into North America, and we've opened a really nice office in Miami. We're trying to recruit 20 people at the moment, so we're trying to recruit. We should be up and running with our 24/7 SOC and SIM in North America. But I think it's really nice that we're actually investing back into North America at the moment. Yeah? You think it's a good idea? Yeah? Okay. So, with no further ado, we need one at a time. All right, you can't get his hand out there. He's teasing. Right, okay, we have 0213. 0213. There you go. Woo! Okay. And you're Robert from Cypher. Well done. No, sorry. There you go. There you go. There's one there. Thank you very much. Well done, Robert. Cheers. Thank you. Cheers. There you go. And again, please. There you go. This is it. And 0317. Whoa! There you go. That's it. Come down here. And let's just double check. You are Maxim from Gartner. Well, oh no. There you go. There you go. Thank you very much. Thank you. Right.